Man, college football. I think the past couple of years we've just slowly been watching the decline of college football, and another fan favorite tradition right here. Spring games are starting to get canceled. And no, it's not by FCS Northwest or FCS East in college football 25. It is by marquee programs. Matt Rule, Nebraska, came out a few weeks ago, said, "Hey, we're not hosting our spring game this year." Last year, when we had our spring game, as soon as it ended, a bunch of coaches came and started calling my players up, trying to get them to transfer. And so we're just not going to have it this year. And then, bam, the dominoes started to fall. Nebraska did it first. Now, Steve Sarkisian and Texas and USC and Lincoln Riley. Don't know who's taken from USC. Let me just put that one in there. But USC and Lincoln Riley are following suit, man. Freddie, college football spring games, buddy.
As a guy that, or excuse me, as a person and as a young kid, when I was going to spring games, it was a big deal. This was back when ticket prices are outrageous. Um, you couldn't afford to go to a game. It's even worse now than it was back then. But luckily, people that I go to games with are a little bit more fortunate now than they used to be. But you could only afford to go to spring games in gas, right? Like, these are great games for fans, and these are great games to get connected with fans. For fans that have never been to campus, right? It's a free event. First come, first serve. You come in, you watch your favorite team, you get hyped for the season. Spring games are also for talent development. And this is something that, as I read through kind of the reasons that USC and Texas decided to do this, I'm calling bullcrap. They're citing the fact that, hey, we added extra games in the regular season, so there's more of a risk for injury. No, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there. If they expanded the playoffs, you mean to tell me you would sit out a game because your fear of injury? No, because guess what? You make money from that. You make a lot of money from that. So to tell me that it's a risk of injury to have a spring game, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. It was a risk of injury to expand the playoffs and play 17 games if you make it all the way through. That's a risk of injury because you're playing the entire game. You've got more on the line. It's later in the season. You're tired. You're already a little hurt. And another thing, Sarkeesian said that he's scared. Get this. He's scared that players will show out and then transfer to another school. Really? Really? You're scared that a player on your team is going to do well, okay? And then in the spring window, they're going to decide that, Alabama called me. I think I'd rather go there. No, you're robbing fans of fun. You're robbing fans the chance to see their favorite team. I think it's sad. Spring games offer a lot to college football. It scratches that itch in the middle of the summer that we have to watch some sort of college football. Fans get an idea what their team's going to look like. I remember vividly watching Jalen Hurts in the spring game, and I bring this up because we're both Alabama fans, and I remember vividly watching him in the spring game and saying that dude's going to be something. Now, you can also be wrong. I watched Ajay Hall at the spring game a couple years ago. That dude's going to be something. And he didn't show up in a national championship game, and he transferred, and he didn't even show up to the next team he transferred to because he sucks. So there's give and take there. I think it's stupid. I want to know your opinion, Chase.
I kind of reading over it. I think most of them were dishonest, but Matt Rule. I think this doesn't speak to spring games as much as it does the transfer portal. And that's something that we've just been hitting on all season, man. It's just coming full force. But Matt Rule mentioned, hey, we're not going to do it because of the people who are trying to poach our kids. Well, the transfer portal is April 16th through 25th, which is after most teams have played their spring game. That's just how it is. And so, hey, I'm on TV, like your marquee teams, your Alabamas, your Florida States, your Texas, probably Michigan, Ohio States, those kind of guys, they're going to be on TV with their scrimmage game, spring game. My apologies. Your USF is not going to be there on there as much. So those teams are getting watched on TV, on television, their film and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go call this guy up because he's on second team defense, but he could probably start over here at, Virginia Tech. And so those guys are getting called to go play at different places. So you're getting your team poached. And then don't even let's call it back to what happened with UAB and Trent Dilfer this year. Teams inside the AAC with UAB were poaching UAB's kids, their starters, to sit the bench at another school because they had the money and it took talent away from UAB. So that's already a thing we know that's happening in college football. And then you add in this, like they're taking it from spring games because there's no regulations on the transfer portal. I think that's what it speaks to the most. Look, you're killing again, like what we grew up with is just no more. And that's what sucks, is because I remember going to A-Day for Alabama and watching some of those games. It was a free event back then, concessions half priced, the whole nine. And so you're like, oh my gosh, I'm on top of the world. I'm up here where I can feel the wind move like it's like the Avatar of the Airbender. But my gosh, I got a dollar hot dog and a $3 Coke, and I'm watching Alabama football down there. And so it's a lot of fun, and then now you're not getting it. It's kind of sad, definitely for these programs. And it's all because of I can see Sark's point, and that's a point I made a few years ago about even expanding the college football playoff. You shouldn't have a playoff at all. It's not meant for that. You're doing it for money, and it does cause more injury. But at the end of the day, if that's how he sees it, and you're trying to hold off in the spring, I think that's about 15% of the reason. 85% is the transfer portal. I think this is just going to continue to kill um, college football until they put a stop to it. They put regulations on it. They say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. Or at least another thing you could do is eliminate the second window. I think that's stupid in general. I really don't appreciate that. I don't know why there's two. Or if you want to have two that bad, move it up into before the spring game. I think that's as simple as you can do it. And I can kind of understand why they have it after the spring game, is because some coaches are like, hey, buddy, you probably need to go. You're not going to play here, kind of deal. I get that. But I think at the end of the day, you kind of know that too before the spring game. So
But
I don't.
and this is something that I don't really know that much about the ins and outs of how it all works. But is there a scenario where you have the transfer portal after the spring game? You have more players on your roster than you're supposed to have before the season officially starts. So that way you can say, hey, we have you now. Nobody else has you. Just to your point about UAB. And then if somebody that you thought would be a starter doesn't perform, you kick them out and this other guy comes in. And it's like that is not right morally. Screw college football and like rules. Like that's just not right morally. These coaches need to be held to a higher standard of, hey, we're going to offer you a scholarship for you to come play football at the University of Texas. Okay, they need to honor their side, and if they pull this kid aside, and I know this happens, you could do it in college football 25. You can encourage transfers. Really, like a coach should not sit a player down and say, "Look, man, this ain't working. I advise you transfer." Even that's not right to me. I agree with the second transfer window. It's ridiculous. The transfer portal by itself needs a whole revamp, and I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think you get a revamp of anything until there's one big collective. You need the NCAA back. Genuinely, you do. But lawsuit after lawsuit that they've had, and just loss after loss that they've had, they don't have the cojones to do it anymore, and they won't do it. And so that's why people are calling for a commissioner, in which it could help, but that'll also have difficulties too. You're beginning to run like the NFL on a smaller scale, and that's what's going to hurt you. And that is what's hurting college football. You implemented the transfer portal without having the right idea behind it. You implemented the NIL without having the right idea behind it, and you implemented the college football playoff with the right idea in mind, however, focusing more on the money aspect of what you're getting from it. So you've ruined college football in all three facets um, because of that. And I think, there are pros, legitimately, there are pros to all three. And I was very in favor of NIL for what it was supposed to be. I was very in favor of the transfer portal for what it was supposed to be, never in favor of the playoff. But with those two things, you've legitimately said run amok, and that's been the
Yeah.
problem. And so the college football that we grew up with will be no more, has been no more, and in the future you're going to have little Timmy wishing he could go to an Alabama game. However, the Alabama games are $282 for the highest seat in the nosebleeds because Jimmy Gerald, who is playing cornerback starting for Alabama, is wanting NIL money. That little Timmy is paying for the ticket and wants his face on there. He wants $50 from every ticket that's paid. That's the reality we live in, and it's just disgusting to watch. Because that's how people are. And so you're losing traditions like the spring game, like rivalry games. All this matters and all this stuff because people want a little extra money, people want to do what they want, and people want to run amok. So you kind of just, sorry, just kind of like just ran it there at you. But,
No,
you know, I don't know. If you don't really have much else to say, I would love to leave it to the viewers. Because if you're watching this, me and Freddie are both pretty passionate about it, and we know Quinn is as well. And so, if you guys have something to say about it, please, because we'd love to start like going through some of these comments, maybe talking about them, seeing what you guys think. Because at the end of the day, college football isn't about we or me; it's about all of us collectively enjoying the sport that we watch and just continually watching. It's like it. I'm going to be a little. No, I don't want to be that graphic. Oh man,
we
I
are
was going to say
PG here.
it's like
13.
slowly somebody being crushed by a boulder, I guess. Like that's what I'm like. You're just watching the dominoes fall. Like you can see it 10 years down the road. Like oh my, like that's gonna happen. And with college football, you're like you heard of NIL, you're like something's not gonna go right here, and you're just slowly watching it die. Like you're just watching college football just slowly pass away from it. And so that's you're just
I
seeing all
got a
these things.
better
You're like,
analogy.
give me something because
Th-
I'll
this
go.
this asteroid that they're talking about, or meteor that could hit Earth in 20 years or whatever. It's possible. Like you see it in the sky. The percentage chance of it hitting Earth is getting higher and higher by the day.
Come on,
Uh,
come on.
so yeah, that's a good analogy for it too.
No, that's exactly right. Because like you're just watching and you're just like, oh man, it's everybody loved college football because it was played and done the right way, unlike some other sports. And now you've slowly lost it too. That's just what sucks. So you're just watching these dominoes fall. But if you're watching this video, maybe you like college football too. Let us know how you'd fix college football, who you'd like as a commissioner, maybe how we can wrangle this thing back in. Because between you guys, me and Freddie and Quinn, where he is at, we can maybe figure this thing out together and we could become the new NCAA. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening and just always enjoying our content, guys. For the Three Bold Take, guys, Quinn, Chase, and Freddie, as always, thank you.